Hey y'all, how y'all doing? I'm Jordan, and I am a rising sophomore at the wonderful home of the pilots, Norview High School.
Hey everyone, I'm your other host, Deani Lee, and I'm a freshman at the George Mason University.
Whoop whoop. Okay, before we start, Deani, how was your day?
It's been good. I'm super excited to get into these topics today. They are very juicy, and I think y'all are going to love it.
Yes, yes, yes. So first, we're going to start off. What is a law scholar and what we do? So basically, what a law scholar is, as scholars, we have come together to read and dissect The Color of Law, a New York Times notable nonfiction novel that describes the implication of redlining. So every Saturday, we break down each chapter of the book and discuss the implications of redlining locally, focusing on Norfolk, Virginia. We strive to educate ourselves as African American children in America as well as educating others.
Yes, and we would not be able to be a part of this program if it wasn't for Clever Communities in Actions, which focuses on the promotion and placement of culturally affirming literature in order to improve literacy rates, build communities, and heal traumas inflicted by systemic racism within the African American community. And within Clever Communities in Action, there's not only the law scholars. I know, hard to believe sometimes. We also do have the Read to Lead program, which is a school-based initiative to promote literacy, positive self esteem, and cultural awareness through literature, which is a focus on African American students. Through Read to Lead, Clever Communities in Action has distributed over 3,000 culturally affirming books to dozens of Title I elementary school libraries in Hampton Roads and Flint, granting access to over 7,000 elementary students since 2011.
And another program they have is Virtual Village Show. It is now on its fifth season. It airs every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Tune in for readings of African American children books about various topics, Black history facts, and check out our supplementary online learning portal hosted by kids for kids. Another one is Razor Sharp Readers, utilizes the barbershop to promote a love for reading while providing mentorship in a fun and effective way. You can learn more about these programs at Law Scholars at clevercommunities.org. And now we're going to introduce our other law scholars.
Hey.
Hey y'all, I'm Selena, I'm 16, and I'm a rising junior.
Woo-hoo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ure. I'm a rising junior at Princeton High School, and I am 16 years old.
Woo.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kennedy, and I'm a rising freshman at Howard University.
Okay, girlie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Justice. I am 17, and I'm going into my senior year at Woodrow Wilson High School.
Mm-hmm.
Hi everyone, I'm Calissa and I am 17 and a rising senior.
And we are the Law Scholars once again. Whoop whoop. And we are so excited to be on here. This is our last show, unfortunately, but these topics are heavy hitters, I promise you. And before we get into these topics, let's do a quick shout out to these symbols on our shirts, everyone. This is the symbol of meaning independence, and it is native to Ghana and West Africa. And the symbol is just, I think it represents independence and freedom and being able to be who you are without fear or judgment. And I love it. I rock this shirt all the time. I swear I watch this like twice a week just so that I can wear it all the time. But now we are going to go into our first topic one, with topic one with Justice, Ure, Kennedy, and with me, Ure, and Kennedy, and we're going to talk about segregation in schools.
Hi, everyone.
Hey guys. And so, hey guys, and for our first question for this topic is, how did segregation in schools begin, and how did this impact the Black community?
Yes, so first off, a little bit of backstory. Segregation took de jure then de facto form in the southern United States with the passage of Jim Crow laws in the 19th century. And I feel like really recently, I used to think that Jim Crow was kind of just like 1960s that time, but that's when the Jim Crow laws were around the time that the Jim Crow laws were abolished. So, but it actually dates all the way back to the 19th century, and these laws were influenced by discrimination throughout the United States, as well as the history of slavery in the southern states. So these laws obviously has a big effect on what happens today, but it gives a lot of backstory to why segregation happened in schooling.
Right, Ure. Excuse me. Jim Crow laws basically set up a lot of the prejudices that we see today. And once these prejudices started, it was really hard for them to be broken, even though they were not technically in law. These laws and these customs were maintained.
Yes,
Black
and
schools, also referred to as colored schools, were racially segregated schools in the United States that originated after the American Civil War and Reconstruction era. So public schools were made for ex-slaves, but these schools were obviously always typically segregated, but they were also way lower funded than white schools. Lots of people say just because there was an education for Black individuals means that was a good thing, but this education had lots of problems with it, and it was also very low funded with less resources.
Right. And we can see that issue coming up today. So we can just see again how the past is still affecting us to this day.
yes, with a lot of the quote unquote Black schools having less resources than the predominantly white schools, and it just shows how they're, like Kennedy said, how the past is really seeping into the now future.
Right.
Yeah, and a lot of things is also the fact that the education that was being learned was very kind of just anti-Black in almost every way. Even what we learn about today is very Eurocentric with the ideals that America is the best country ever, and just very like whitewashed history and also very downplayed slavery. So even what people were learning in this time, they weren't given the resources. It wasn't good, but it was also kind of just not validating all the struggles that they went through during that time period. So that's why it's so important for programs like CCA and stuff to make sure that the right education is going out there today. But in reference to the past, the resources just weren't there. And with the things like private schools, the resources were obviously going to different places at the time.
Yes,
Right.
I agree. Sorry, I was just gonna say I agree. You see a lot of times in history, yes, you're talking about the slavery and you talk about Harriet Tubman, but who else do you really know? That's really all they heavily focus on is Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass. What about Shays Rebellion? Because the slaves did rebel, but you never hear about it in history ever.
Right.
It's just about them running away and leaving, which is good. But there were times where slaves actually stood up, took the guns, and fought back to free themselves and others. And you never hear about it. It's almost just to show as if we just try to run away from what was happening and not really fight back, in a sense.
Right. And also we see in public schools today how AP European history, very white Anglo history is pushed, and it's an AP course and it's higher level knowledge, but African American history will sometimes be offered, not all the time, but it'll be an elective, so it's not required. So I think that shows first the value that our history holds in society is just a lot lower than white history, European history, and that we don't think it should be a requirement. We don't see the value in it. But again, that's why we have programs like Read to Lead, which is distributing African-American literature, the Virtual Village show that's reading these African-American children's books to these children so we can see ourselves in this literature, we can understand our history, so we can spread it to other kids, not just in America, but really worldwide.
Yeah, like literally last year is when the African American elective was like given, or at least the idea of it was like presented to me. And I'm even just wondering like what will it be like? Like what if it's even just like not the right education? What if it's kind of just, I don't know. I'm really like interested in seeing what that's like because like even though it's a class that's given, like things like AP Euro had to go through lots and lots of like processes of becoming like an AP class as well. And those things are just like Kennedy said, seen at such a higher level. An African American class is just like an elective. Like, it's very crazy to think about, and I really wonder just what it's going to turn out like.
Right. I almost fear the African American elective because I'm fearful that it's going to teach us or teach maybe white students as well as Black students who don't know a lot that our history started when we became enslaved, and nothing about African history, where we came from, nothing about how we were prosperous, nothing about us fighting for our education, us fighting to maintain our community and our sense of self-worth. And just I just worry that it's going to be, again, that same Rosa Parks, we're better now, there's no racism, things were bad, but everything's better. So yeah.
I just really hope that within that class we find a lot of the hidden truths to history about African Americans that I believe that they hide and neglect to share with us as young children. And I hope that that's what we'll get out of that African American class. I really wish I could be in high school and take that class, because I would take that class so quick just to see what it's all about. And hopefully they do it the justice that it's due, and they don't just, like Kennedy said, go over Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, which are great people, but there are more people out there who have done amazing things to get us where we are today. And we need to shed light on those people, not just talk about who we believe are the main characters of the story, when there are thousands of main characters in this story.
Right. But I am grateful that we're even able to look at having an African American history elective as well as even really attend school, because a lot of these segregated schools and like schools of the past blatantly just made it impossible for African American children to attend school in general. So I am grateful for this education. I understand the importance of it. I understand this is what my ancestors fought for. However, I am fearful of the history that they're going to teach us. And again, that's why I'm super grateful for Clever Communities in Action that is pushing the right meshes of our history.
Yeah, I also just think it's so important that when we look back, it's important to like find out our African history. Like it took like a lot of thinking. Like, I'm very lucky that like my lineage goes back to like my parents. Like, I don't have to have much trouble searching for it. But when you see a Black person, like there's so much culture within them, but it's so hard to find because you have to either pay like hundreds of dollars for an ancestry test or something. But African history like is our history. So it's so important that we can also learn like things about that type of stuff, just so, we could like know more about ourselves, because we were like taken on ships and boats to here and like against our will. Like, it's incredibly crazy what us as Black individuals have gone through. And I think it's so important. It would just be so like just culturally affirming to like know everything about our culture and history.
That's true, because you have, white Americans learning about European history and the kings and the queens and how they lived and all that they got to bring and everything that they did, from what they wore to how they talked. You can learn about all of that while you're in history. For us, we have to go to college and try to work that around the major that we're in. If you're going to be a medical doctor, it may not be in your best interest for what you want to do in the future to take an African American class, because you may not be able to fit that in your schedule. But it should be something that you learn in high school, therefore you have it for them while you're out there in the future. It's always good to know more about your past and other people's past, therefore it's easier to relate and easier to be like, I understand your struggles even though I did not go through it. And that's what I think would really help. I think that class would really help bring people together as one country, one nation, I believe. Hopefully. I got a lot of hope.
Okay, so I think this is a good time to go to our follow-up question. Diani, do you want to say what that is?
Okay, yes, I can do that for you, no problem. Our follow-up question is, how has segregation in schools been maintained in today's society? Sorry, my English is a little messed up.
Okay, so we've previously discussed this on another episode, but we see that a common tactic to segregate Black people was building a new attractive school in a designated area where the city or county wanted Black people to live, to sort of incentivize Black people moving into certain communities, and then build an attractive new white school in a different area that the city designated for white students to live, to incentivize white people going to that certain school. But the issue is that we see at the Black school, the services of the school, they began to decline. The school was not maintained, and things slowly start to fall apart within the school. Just the overall, the books, the building itself, the school really just go into a decline. So we see that for me in my own life in Chesapeake, Virginia, I attended Oscar Smith High School. And my freshman year, there were over 20 portables attached to the school. Now, even though Oscar Smith was founded in 1954, that building was made in 1996, the same year that Hickory High School was built. Hickory High School had 0 portables. How is that the case? We see Oscar Smith was 58% Black, but we see Hickory High School was 78% Black. So even though these are things that are quote unquote from the past, we see them happening again in our future, even now, even as I'm a student.
That's crazy, and I never knew that about Oscar Smith, how they had portables. I'm one of the few Black people who attended Grassfield High School, and you can really see the difference. I have friends who went to Oscar Smith Middle, and they talk about the difference. And growing up in Chesapeake, you hear about the difference and how you hear about how Oscar Smith is quote unquote one of the schools that most people don't want to go to because there's a lot of fights. But knowing people who went there, it's an academically good school. They have the IB program. How can a school that has so much violence, so many like gang banging kids, and just such a bad school have such a prestigious program? The IB, I personally could not get into the IB program. That is a really good program. And yes, at Grassfield they have STEM, but personally, IB is a lot more than STEM because you're learning all these advanced subjects at once, not just like, you know what I mean? If that makes sense, and it pushes you to that level.
Right.
And I think that, especially in my area, Oscar Smith does not get the acknowledgement that they deserve as being such a good school.
Right. And then while I was attending Oscar Smith, I remember one day, this boy, we heard some yelling outside of our portable, and a boy had fallen through the stairs of the portable. So we see that it further pushes away people from attending the school who maybe can go to these private schools or afford to relocate their families and move. And then it keeps the students there where you're falling through the stairs, there's roaches in the portables, and it just causes more division, and it causes an extra burden on parents to say, okay, I want my student, I want my child to be around their people and to feel comfortable, but I don't want them to fall through the steps of a portable going to English class.
It just really a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly just unacceptable for like any learning environment for a child to have all of those issues. School should be somewhere that is like safe, and it should be somewhere where you're comfortable in your own skin. And me personally, where I've like been going to primarily white schools for most of my life, like that's had a really big like mental toll on me. And I've received like a really good education. I went to Old Nation School, which is a gifted school, and like there were so many resources there. The field trips were like great. Like there was so much there that was so good, but it definitely like I had to sacrifice lots of things about myself, and I developed lots of insecurities that I know I would not have had if I was somewhere else. So I just think education is like right now it's like a privilege, but it should be a right. Like it should be something that everyone has, that everyone is safe for, and it should not have any mental or psychological toll on your personality or lifestyle. And I think the fact that it has on me is why I'm so adamant on that like change happening. Like, oh my gosh, like imagine just like falling through the ground at your school. Like, that's just so crazy. Like I think my school PA has like a roach Instagram where people just like post like random roaches they find, and like that's so bad. That's like why is that a thing? I don't know.
Right.
That's crazy. No, sorry. I was gonna touch on another point as to how segregation is maintained in today's society. I think a lot of like even in schools like Grassfield who has Black kids, you don't see them taking AP classes. You don't see them taking a lot of dual enrollment classes, and you don't see them taking. You maybe see a few honors, but as someone who took AP, I know two kids in there, and it's a little intimidating at first. You see nobody else who looks like you, so you're thinking, "Is this a class for me? Is this something I can actually take?" So I think that is a way that they segregate and prevented some Black kids from taking it because they don't see themselves in it. And it's not something that other teachers are suggesting to other Black kids.
Right.
Nobody ever suggested I take an AP course or a dual enrollment course. I was lucky enough to have a sister who showed me that and suggested I take those and really helped me out. But unless you actually have a teacher who was backing you up, which I personally never saw that, it's really hard to get into that and to know that's something that you need to take to help better you educationally and academically.
Right. And I would see, and this is from middle school, the Black kids who would be in like the honors classes or like the gifted classes, they would have like maybe one slip up, maybe one marking period that was not that good, and they would be removed from those classes. So again, it's the lack of advocacy for our Black children that definitely has to be addressed in this schooling. That definitely makes schooling more segregated because you feel like you don't want to be in certain spaces where you're not advocated for.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You never want to walk into I was gonna say you never want to walk into a room and feel like you're not welcomed or you feel like you don't belong because for one, you don't see anyone there. You don't see anyone saying, "Hey, come on in here. This is a class you should definitely take." You just makes you want to back away.
Right. Yeah. Especially like at my school, Princess Anne, which is also an IB school. I'm not in the IB program because me personally, like, that's so much. But like my only class with Black kids was my PE class. And every other class was primarily white. And then I realized something, and that's that people would always call me like the smart kid, which honors isn't like when people would talk about the IB program, like they call them like zone kids zoned for the school, they would talk down on themselves like, no, I'm too dumb for that, or just like, oh, those are like the really smart kids, like they're not smart. And like number one, like AP classes, AP exams cost money. It also takes a bunch of time that not everyone is going to have. Like if you have to be home and like have a job to support your family, like there's just so much like income relating to race, but it's just the fact that there's like a low self-esteem among Black individuals because of just what's like put on us. And I think it's just it's so like when I hear my friends say like that they're dumb and that the IB kids are smarter, and which at my school IB kids are primarily white, like it's so horrible. There's so much like mental anguish that we have to go through and that we have to just like figure out like why, I don't know, why this is a thing.
Right.
No, yeah, I fully agree with that. It's just wild how especially being part of this program has really opened my eyes to a lot of that. I feel like being at Grassfield and not really knowing a lot about this, about how a lot of people felt with this, it's eye opening, and I love that about this because I just feel even more prepared now that I'm going off to college in a predominantly white school again. I am more awakened and more knowledgeable on what's going on, and so now I know when to say something when something needs to be said when something's going on, and I'm really grateful for that.
Right, me too.
Yes, so I think this might be a good time to go into our open discussion. So if anyone has any questions, you could put them in the comments. But as of now, I think we're just going to bring everyone on maybe to talk about some experiences that they had within schooling.
Yeah, like I think I can speak for a lot of Black kids who went to like PWIs when like, especially like being like in like honors program and stuff, like being like the only one like in your classroom and like not really like, being able to relate to anyone. And like Ray said, like, yeah, like the only time I really had like Black children in my classes was for PE, which was like ridiculous because like there was like no like representation for Black children to even like believe in themselves or like that they could do it. Like no one was encouraging them. So Like,
So we have a question from Abdul Wallace that says, how would you suggest to get more minority students in AP classes? Anyone have an answer to that?
I think we need more teachers to be more aware and more trained on letting them know and like not holding this information back.
Yes.
Because how are you to know whether or not a student is ready to take that class or not? They need to figure that out within themselves and see that that's an option for them to take.
Right. And I think, like at certain workplaces, you have a lot of discussions about different races, different religions, different cultures to make sure that you understand everybody else in your workplace. And I
Right.
think teachers should be having the same things. I don't know if teachers sometimes do this stuff or this kind of training, but if they do, it's not showing. So I think something needs to be done about that. And then especially for Black teachers to hone in on their Black students because you can relate to your Black student.
Right.
Encourage them to take those classes, encourage them to challenge themselves. One class, it's just one class. That's all you need.
I don't really know exactly how AP classes, like how getting into AP classes works, but I wouldn't want to put, like, I'm just saying, like, for example, like if I feel like my son isn't ready to participate in an AP class, I don't want him to take it and like lower his confidence or like mess up on an AP class if he's not ready for it. I take the AP class if I believe that he's ready for it. But that's also a college course. Like, is he ready to be taking a college course? And he's only like 15 or 16. That's like a serious question that you'd have to ask. And if you believe so, then you apply. And I don't really know how it works for getting into it. But besides that, like, I feel like you just like apply and like study. And once you study and you have like your facts down, I feel like you should be able to get into the class. I don't know how if they discriminate against minorities in AP class. I'm pretty sure they do. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't really know how that works.
I understand what you're saying, but like I kind of somewhat disagree. Like, don't force your child into an AP class, obviously. However, just it comes down to the teachers that you have to be able to prepare you. Because what AP classes are doing is, well, they're quote unquote preparing you to take college level classes. But honestly, taking AP classes it's really just more homework. That's all there is to, like, I don't think I'm really learning that much more.
it's definitely
other
not as
than-
fancy as everyone says it is, for sure.
Yeah, it's just an added amount of work, and it's honestly just stressful, but it does teach you a lot about time management and being able to be efficient in your work. So I think it'll benefit you to take one or two classes. And if you're not ready for it, then you can go back down to the lower class. They don't force you to stay.
Right.
Yeah. I just think, like, I know that my AP Psych teacher, she actually talks about how, like, the AP program is corrupt and how, like, paying for class, there's just so much about it. Like I totally understand what Justice is saying. Like, if, like, his child isn't ready, just because, like, every school's AP class is completely different. Like, last year, my AP class, we absolutely did, like, nothing. It very much varies, and I think, yeah, it's just a lot to kind of go over.
Right.
Going back to like you're like, oh, sorry, Kennedy.
No, you're all right, Selena.
Okay, I was
I'll
like going back to like paying to take the class, like the financial part of it, like definitely like plays like a big deal. Like to take the test at the end of the year, it's like $100 or something for like a class you're never really gonna like use again ever. It just like makes you like look fancier. It's like, yeah, like I don't know really how AP classes really work that much because when the only AP class I took was like during like coronavirus, so like it was obviously like different. Everyone has a different experience, but like at the end of the day, like it really just makes you look better.
I don't even know because I didn't have to pay for my AP test, but everybody in my class failed the like actual exam. So I'm just like everybody, like the whole group, like we were in a group chat. Everybody failed, and I'm like, I want to talk to my counselor and my teacher about it because there's no way that 20 students that were in the class every day failed this test. But that's like I don't even know if they can do anything about it because it's AP.
Okay, we have a question saying, how important do you think quality early childhood education and enrichment programs are for preparing students for advanced classes, and what impact do you think poverty has on access?
Oh my goodness. I could talk so long about this. First off,
Go
I
off, Kennedy.
still keep in contact with my first grade and kindergarten teacher to this day. I was literally just over her house because me and all the people in her class are graduating this year or have graduated this year, and we just want to thank her for giving us such a great foundation. She was a Black woman, and like the impact she just had on my life was just amazing. It was amazing. I credit her for everything, all my academic accomplishments and all my reading knowledge in this brain, because she did her thing. So I think it's super important. Early childhood education is super important. And I feel like children's brains are just so moldable and they're just little sponges. And I think they can just take in whatever information they throw at them. But again, the access sometimes is not there. I know my teacher was at a private school, and I do understand that is expensive and not everyone can afford that. So I think just the lack of access, where maybe you do have a teacher who is not trained on how to deal with Black kids, or maybe has their own personal prejudices, that's not setting up our Black kids in the correct way. So again, that makes me super grateful for my experience, but I do understand the impact that poverty has on the access to these amazing schools and early childhood education that we see. And again, with Clever Communities in Action and the Virtual Village, we see children reading other children these books.
For me, I know that I went to a public elementary school, and there was all people from all different backgrounds. There was a lot of diversity, a lot of different backgrounds, and I loved my kindergarten teacher, my first grade teacher. They all made me really love going to school and being there. And I think that we just need, I don't know how the best way to put it, but just better teachers for those kids who didn't have a great foundational early childhood education. And even if you are low poverty, the teachers at those schools should be able to get that child up and running and to get them to want to come to school and to learn and to be involved. And I think that has everything to do with how the teacher handles himself and handles himself around people with low income. Because it doesn't matter what income you have or how much money you have. It matters that you come to school every day and you're excited and you're ready to learn.
I think
Yeah.
I think that when you're a child, well, like I say, like the first 10 years of your life, that really depicts on how much information you can learn. So when I was in, where and like your surroundings also affect how much you learn. So I moved out Portsmouth when I was 7, but before then I lived out Chesapeake, and I went to an elementary school called Trinkle Elementary. You might have heard of it. And like I love school. Like I really loved school. Like up until like up until like fourth or fifth grade is when I started to say I don't want to go to school. And I don't even know if it's because I moved, because I went to it was more white people at Trinkle than it was at my Portsmouth school. But like a lot of when I moved, it was more kids that were like, oh, school, we have to go to school. I like school a lot. It was like, I guess maybe it was killed when I moved, but like your surroundings like really affect how you think and like who you are as a person.
Yeah, I agree with you, Justice, because um I don't want to say I don't like school, but I just feel I'm gonna say it. I don't like school actually. It's not that like it's not um like it's just the education. Like the teachers aren't making it fun for us. It's just like we're going to school, oh, we're learning this topic. It's not, especially when I'm not learning about myself, about African Americans, especially in the social studies classes, and I'm not learning about myself. I don't really care about people back in the day. Like I don't care about George Washington or whatever. I want to learn about myself. And that's why I don't feel as a school or like I don't feel school is very fun and it's not very like educating me very well.
Now,
Yeah, the
for me,
material
I
is
would say,
out.
what you saying? Go ahead.
I was saying like the material that like they teach us is definitely like pretty like redundant. Like in
Yes.
history and stuff, like how many times we're gonna learn about the same four things. Like maybe there's like one new thing like a year, but like American history, like
There's
okay,
more you didn't hear
like
about.
we know like white people's American history. Like can we
Yes,
move
it's
on?
feel like it's repeating. Like we keep learning the same thing every year, and that's why I don't like it. Like, why do we have to keep learning? Can we learn something different? Like, okay, we
Not
get it.
only like
Plus two is
different, just
four. Like, can we get something more fun, more entertaining for us, so we can actually enjoy school, especially for the Black community, for the kids who live in low poverty areas where they don't enjoy it. So, like, can we get some fun stuff in there so that they can enjoy school and so they can go to college and they want to like actually do something with their life so they won't be like their parents and come back to where they started off.
Yeah,
Now,
I
for
want
me,
to touch on the.
okay. So for me, I like school on a certain extent. So I really like math. I really like science, but history is more so. It's more complicated. But that's for another time.
yeah, I was gonna say that like the information like in the way that it's presented definitely is not like engaging, but also school is for learning, but we don't really like learn anything new. Do you know what I mean? Like we're not really like retaining new information. I mean like we are, but the important things like that they teach us every single year, important things, like it's not like the things that stick with us, they're not really things that are like progressive at all or like actually like helpful to or actual like history, if anything. Like it's so like not even like true. Like half of it is just not accurate.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make this point really quick, going back to the lack of access. So, what my parents had me and my brother do was we went to my grandma's house so that we could technically be zoned for the school with quote unquote more resources. But as soon as they found out that we didn't actually live at my grandma's house, we were just going there in the morning. They told us that we weren't allowed to register for classes in their school anymore. So I had already gotten, like, I was in middle school by then, but my brother had to move schools. And I think that just goes to show how they try and gatekeep the resources that they have. And I'm not saying that my brother got a better education at whichever school. It's just the fact that there's supposedly or allegedly more resources at one, and they told us we couldn't have access to them because we lived like a couple feet over their zoning.
No, yeah, I get that. And I don't know, I know it's so important that people have resources and it definitely has like a further effect on life. So I'm really glad we had this conversation. We kind of went over the time we were supposed to do. So now we are going to go to intermission where Justice is going to be talking about the Red Summer.
Go Justice.
Good justice.
You got this.
Okay, so today, for everybody watching, I'm going to be going over what the Red Summer is. Now, the Red Summer is one of the many race riots that happened white supremacist race riots that occurred during the 20th century. And the Red Summer is a period from late winter through early autumn of 1919, during which white supremacist terrorism and racial riots took place in more than 13 dozen cities across the United States, as well as in one rural county in Arkansas. The term Red Summer was coined by civil rights activist and author James Weldon Johnson, who had been employed as a field secretary by the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People since 1916. Now, I'm saying this to go over how racist like how these white supremacist riots are, because in case anyone forgot, we were rioting for civil rights last year around this time, after George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. But we were shot at and tased and put in jail and killed for speaking our opinion. But these people during this time just killed and slaughtered hundreds of people just because they felt like it and because they were racist. But we're the people that are right. It just goes to show the history of America and how messed up it is, because nobody talks about this, but people are quick to say that we're the bad people when we actually have a purpose, a good purpose, not just to say that, just not to spit on white people, even like that's wrong. Like we're not like that. But they spit on us and they just get away with it, and nobody sees a problem with this. But yeah, that's all I have to say on this topic.
Okay, thank you, Justice. So now we're going to move on to topic 2, where and it's about solutions. So now we're going to bring on Selena, Calissa, and Justice. Okay, here's Selena. Okay, so the topic, or the leading question, I'm sorry, what are solutions to today's effects of redlining regarding housing? Would you like to start, Selena?
Sure. So we all, like, if you watched like the previous episode, which you guys totally should, we really got into like how redlining was just like another legal form of segregation and like living arrangements, and things like that, and how like that everything kind of like fell into place to keep us like stuck to where we are right now. But we really need to take like to really solve the problem, or at least begin to. I mean, we can't really like solve the problem like right now. It's like way too late for us to really get what we deserve. But the first step would be really to take like legislative stand, because there are so many like laws in place, just to keep like the houses, like new housing, like lower quality. Oh no, Justice, go ahead.
Okay, so for redlining, I believe that most things start with the government. Not most things, but I think we should start with legislation in the government and on how things should change. Like we should change things through government. That would be like a good first step at least, because there's a lot of legislation and bills and things that weren't set in place for us to succeed. But if we were to sit like, it's like things like that just like set us back.
Yeah, there's like a lot of like you said, like bills in place that people don't even know about. Like that just goes like completely swept under the rug, that like keeps us exactly where we are. That's like so, and it's like still like legal because no one really talks about it, and like no one actually knows. So um when it comes to voting and things, like no one really like knows what they're voting for or anything. What actually is like important are the things that, I mean, like no one talks about it. It's not like a hot topic.
Yeah, and then other solutions that we could, other solutions that are there that we could do is increase opportunities for Black home ownerships, like increasing access to down payment assistance, increasing access to affordable credit, investing in affordable home ownerships, and retargeting the mortgage interest deduction. And we also could invest distressed racially segregated communities. Many redlining and segregated neighborhoods continue to suffer from disinvestment and economic distress. And by the reinvestment and tax incentives targeting these communities, it can help with recovery and opportunities. So the investments that are made, they have to be carefully designed to ensure that they don't price out existing residents and businesses.
I'll
Another
say.
one. Go ahead.
Okay, so
So
basically,
go ahead.
y'all, come
Go
on.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, am I good? Am I good? Okay, so basically, when a lot of houses, you have to build a certain square foot onto that property. So if you're going into rich neighborhoods trying to build a house, you have to build something with a certain square foot. And if you have to build a relatively large house, that's going to cost more money. However, if we were to get rid of this, as in, I guess, I don't want to say amend legislation because I'm not exactly sure how the entire process works. But if we were to make it so you didn't have to have a required amount of square footing, you can add low income houses to wealthier or more affluent communities. And that gets into creating mixed income communities without having to go out and gentrify low income communities, because we already have a lack of affordable housing as is. So like what they're doing in Tidewater Park, if you know about that, is basically they're taking and tearing the houses down. So when you're tearing these houses down, you're displacing a lot of people because they're not building enough houses for those people to come back into. But if you were to do this in wealthy neighborhoods, nobody's really suffering from that because we have plenty of middle class and wealthier houses. And if you don't, there's definitely people who have the money to build their own homes. So making it mixed income communities would benefit children. We were talking about educational segregation earlier. We build schools based on tax dollars. So if you're building schools off of these tax dollars and everywhere is a mixed income community or relatively mixed income, then a lot of these schools are going to be seeing equal opportunities because they're going to be seeing equal tax benefits.
Before
And that would
we
benefit children. Sorry.
before we even get to solutions to redlining, I think we should go over like rectifying all the history that's happened. That's just another blow on what's happened. That's happened to us in African American history, like from slavery to Jim Crow to this. Like it doesn't make sense. Like my our ancestors built this country, literally built the country, and all we got was a thank you. No, like we didn't get any perks or money or anything for all the labor that we did. But then there's other like communities and like other like communities and organizations from around the world that get compensated for things that America wasn't even a part of. And it just like I'm pretty sure it's just because of our skin color, but it's like how are they getting compensated when they didn't do anything for or to America? Like that just shows how crooked the American government and society is. Like they'd rather give money to people who had no influence on America whatsoever, but the people who built the country and were literally spat on for it get nothing for it. It like we just walk through it like nothing. Like nobody talks about this. Well, people talk about it, but it's not like a big topic of like every day. Like this should be like every day. Like everybody should like say something on this. It's not big enough. It's not a trending topic. It's none of that.
Exactly. And like, of course, like those minorities who like went through something terrible deserve everything that like they like every type of reparations, but like they got like their futures a lot less like blocked. And so like as we're looking into our own future and as we are like as a generation, like we're more like aware of what's going on and like we're trying to educate ourselves, people, again, like using organizations like CCA, which educates just people like us to try to just when we grow up, like, and we have the actual power to make change that, like, we can. I think that we should really just like be aware of the types of things that we can do, and the things that we know need to change. For example, like loaning, like loan systems. How, like lenders don't really. Sometimes they, well, a lot of the time, really, they don't base their credit like giving I'm wording this so wrong, but they like base it off of things like off what you look like or where you live, and like that just like really limits a lot of opportunities for like people of color.
And also with like building credit, it's hard to build credit when you're poor because you have a lot of debt incurring, especially with colleges and trade schools. Like I know my dad went to trade school and he had a lot of debt for that. because they don't really have any type of scholarships that you can get. But with that, I think we're going to move on to our follow-up question, if Jordan could state that for us.
Yeah, so our follow-up questions is, what are solutions that anyone can take part in?
So I think to start off, what we're doing at CCA is a really good solution. Just anything that anybody can do is educate other people. But I'm not telling you to go out and debate with people who are racist, because that is very energy draining. However, going out and educating your child, talking to your friends, just bringing anything back into the Black community is the best way that I can think of to address some of these issues.
Yeah, and like unlearning the things that like we have been taught to be true about ourselves, like telling ourselves and our children and families like we are worthy and we're so much better than the expectations that are placed on us. And trying to like the more you say that, like the more like you believe it um, to yourself, and like just again like teaching the next generation that the things that are said about them are not true. Those stereotypes are not true, and like there's so much more than that.
It's a lot of unlearning that we have to do as a community, because like we said, like we were talking about earlier, you're taught a lot of things in school that aren't necessarily true. So having those conversations and like debunking a lot of myths that you're told is very important.
Yeah, because it also like leads to like a lot of like insecurities that is like projected onto like more Black people, and that just like creates just like such a bigger problem.
Mm-hmm. And I think with that, we can move on to our open discussion with the rest of our law scholars. All right, so if y'all would like, ask us any questions in the comments and we will start addressing them as soon as we get them. So we have one question saying the example of Oscar Smith and Hickory was great. This is referring to what Kennedy was saying earlier. What role should Black students play in advocating for equal improvement of the school teaching environment?
I think it's a super big role that we should play as Black students in advocating for equal improvement of school teaching and the environment. Like I know previously we were talking about just offering access to AP courses, not necessarily forcing Black kids to take AP courses if they don't want to. I think that was part of Justice's concern. But I think just opening up those doors and saying, hey, this is out there for you. I think you would maybe do well in this class. And I think other Black students should play a role in just encouraging their friends like, hey, I know about this. I think you would do maybe good in this class. Or maybe getting student leadership roles, talking to principals, talking to teachers, really just talking about the injustices and maybe just like the treatment that they see. I think sometimes white people or non-Black people, they don't even notice how Black people get left out of a lot of certain
racial undertone
conversations. And I think it would just be super good to have, us as a community, just saying, hey, I noticed this. Why is this like this? This needs to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Definitely.
I think I was talking to Yanni like multiple times, or like twice, honestly. But she's talking about how like her sister like got a lot of opportunities, and like she knows how to like get the type of scholarships that like can really benefit you, and like people like Yanni's sister, like if you know something and like you know how to help other people and like get other opportunities for like other Black people or other minorities that can get you farther in life, like you totally should do that. Like they also like because there's a lot of opportunities that you don't know about because like you never heard of it because again like people don't talk about it.
Yeah,
and don't be
I
afraid
think.
to ask.
Oh, you can go. Sorry.
I was gonna say, don't be afraid to ask questions about anything. No question is a dumb question. If you don't know, just ask.
I think my school, they created a Black student union 2 years ago, and we have a lot of discussions with like all of the staff, all of the teachers, and I think it's one, very empowering to be a part of it, and two, it's very important to have a space where Black people are able to speak up for themselves and know that the teachers and the staff have their back to make sure that they can get as much as possible change to support the Black students in our school.
Yeah, I think like for me personally, I think there's lots of like mental importance with these things because I know like just since the government's not going to do it for us as a community, it's really important that we are bringing each other up. But it's just the fact that it takes a lot to kind of have like to go out and like give all these resources and try to like do the research because I know like it's hard to realize that for other people it's just so easy. Like if you go to a private school and they have like college counselors there and like SAT prep is kind of like in the curriculum, like those things are just handed to them. And then for us and like since it's like majority Black people that are going into these like spaces that the resources aren't there, um, there's just so much work that has to go into it. And I feel like people like Deani's sister, like that's something that I would truly appreciate, but that takes like a lot of work. Like it I don't know. I think it's just really important to realize that when people are doing these things, it's so important to thank them because it takes lots of sacrifices, lots of time that we shouldn't even have to do because it's a right that we should all have.
Right.
Wanda Bird asks if we support slavery reparations. I do.
Absolutely.
I say yes,
Absolutely.
but there's so much that needs to be repaired. It's
A
like
lot more than just slavery reparations.
right. There's a lot more than just slavery reparations that we need.
By reparations, you mean like give out money, right?
But she was just, it's not even only money, but she was asking if we support slavery reparations. I mean, there's more, but yes, we support slavery reparations?
Yes.
Yeah,
Like,
we do.
Also think that if
yes.
we're gonna-
No, that was so dry.
I was gonna say also if we're gonna give out money, like we need to make sure that these people know what they should do with it, not just to buy like alcohol or like just to buy stuff that they don't need. To like teach them to invest their money or to use it to help them get a suit so they can get a good job, or use it to help them go back to school so they can get their GED or their diploma so they can get a decent job, or to make sure just some so they use that money and invest it to better themselves in our community as a whole. A lot of times we give out like with COVID, they gave out money, but you still saw people who didn't have enough to pay rent. They still were trying to figure out what they were gonna like eat the next day because they didn't understand. So we don't understand how to budget sometimes, and that can be a real hindrance on people. So I think yes, I 100% support slavery reparations, but also we need to educate our Black community on finance and budgeting. Therefore, when we get those reparations, like we deserve them, we know how to use them wisely to better ourselves and our community.
Money management is like totally like it's a skill that a lot of like Black people miss out on. Like my parents had me like in this like camp for like money management and like learning the importance of like investing and it's like growing your wealth like before you're in like starting like credit early and things like that, like just so that you like prevent being in debt and like trying to like put yourself forward before you're really, I mean, you're already a lot behind. So just doing whatever you can. There's a lot of little things that like we're never really taught to do.
Yeah, I feel like personally sometimes I see reparations as a very like capitalist ideal, like when we think of like kind of throwing money at a situation to make it better. Like I completely understand it. Like Japanese internment camps, we were kind of talking about that earlier. That happened, and they were in camps for 3 years, and they received financial reparations. And unfortunately, like just me personally, obviously the system kind of has to completely be changed, in my opinion, from our current like capitalist regime where Black people are at the bottom. But it's just like I think it's so important. Like I understand what Deani's saying, like just kind of throwing money at a situation isn't gonna like there has to be like kind of more to it because obviously the government has money, and if they wanted to do it they could. We could each get like millions of dollars, but it's just the fact that like what are we doing with the money, and like would it even be able to heal all the racial wounds, all the like cultural wounds that we'd lost just by like giving money to it? I think it would really help to dismantle all the things that have happened, but there's just so much that like
The thing is that
so much
money
more
it
than
doesn't.
just I'm sorry, it's so much more than just financial reparations, like like it's a lot more than just like money. like you could like offer like grants or like help with like getting to college, like certain stuff. Like it's a lot of stuff than just money. And also the thing about slavery reparations is that we like what at like we asked for like if the topic brought up, it's almost like somebody, even though everybody knows it's the right thing to do, somebody's going to say it's unconstitutional, and then it's just going to like go out the window. That's how they do a lot of stuff. It's like they just like every time we try something, they shoot it down with unconstitutional or something along that line, just to say no.
Okay, yeah, I definitely get that now. I think when I hear reparations, I definitely just think of the financial side of it. But when you talk about like grants, maybe things such as scholarships and
A lot
stuff.
of people are thinking of. Sorry, I did not mean to cut you off.
No,
like
you're
that.
good. You can,
A lot of people are thinking of money when they hear reparations, but the thing with it's like once you spend that money, because money is limited, where do you go from there? Because the system's still in place. The system is still fully functioning, it's still fully working. So without completely reforming or destroying the system, then the reparations aren't doing much as I would love to receive them.
Yeah, definitely the idea of like dismantling like a lot of like big parts of the government that are like super discriminatory, like just like a lot of practices that are still like happening today. Like yeah, of course, like I like completely agree with you. Like once you spend the money, and like I said earlier, like you don't really know what to do with it, like to have it keep flowing, and even then like you're still like playing into the game of it. And it's like been hurting like yourself and your family like for the entire life.
We have another question from Sandy Brandon Hitchison. I'm so sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Should there be a way to help pay off student loan debt for many African American students? Many graduate with high debt and cannot find jobs or stimulus programs as they look for work.
Like that could even go towards reparations. Like a lot of people have student loan debt from going to college and other like plus education and like that. Like yes, I think we should we should be entitled to it, but like it's almost like it's not gonna. It could happen. Now, don't get me wrong, but somebody's going to say that's not right. It's unconstitutional. No, 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 no. It's just like, yeah.
I think for me, this looks like more of a class issue, and race and class unfortunately do go hand in hand in America.
Right.
So, but I would approach this from more of a low income, even middle class standpoint, because a lot of people in middle class aren't able to access certain scholarships, and then low income, it's just very hard to break out of this cycle to move up into a different, I guess, class of society. So I think having some sort of debt recovery program for low income students would be beneficial, not just thinking of race.
Yeah,
and I
and
agree.
especially because it does. Sorry, you could go.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say especially because like race and class do correlate in that way, and it's like I don't know. I think it's like I think Joe Biden was talking about like Black owned businesses, and just talking about like the struggles that Black people go through regarding like financial situations. And I think it's so important to be very careful when we're talking about race and like economic standpoints because it can then kind of further the ideal that Black people are always poor or always lazy. Because if there is a chance that we like prosper, I think it's important that we keep it that way, but we should not still be seen from the standpoint that, just because we're Black, we need help or something. So it's very important to look at these situations in a very like specific way. But I definitely think like what Calissa said, there's like a very income-based economic importance.
Yes. These were some great questions, great points we hit on today. It was absolutely phenomenal having everyone up here today, all 7 of us. Thanks for
Yes, finally.
Finally.
Yes.
Y'all, we did it. We did it this time. And thank you so much, viewers, for tuning in and for asking us awesome questions. And thank you so much, Clever Communities in Actions, for doing this with us and creating Law Scholar so that we could be here today to get educated and educate others. Please like and subscribe to Clever Communities in Action and go follow our website. Go follow her on Facebook, Instagram, follow all the socials. And stay tuned because we have a documentary. So stay tuned, like and follow, subscribe so that you can figure out when that's going to come out.
Definitely.
Yeah, more information soon. And also make sure to tune into like all the past episodes that we've done. It's our very first season finale. I'm kind of sad, guys.
I know. It's real, guys.
I feel like we just started.
I know, right? It feels like just yesterday we were born.
We definitely did.
But we did it, and we thank you again for everyone who's been here to support us since day one. We absolutely appreciate it. We love you guys so much, and stay tuned because we are definitely not done yet. This may be the last show, but this is not the last of us.
Right.
So,
bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for watching.
I am a law scholar.
I am a powerful force. I use literacy as a weapon for liberation.
I use literacy as a weapon to uncover hidden truth. I am a young change agent.
I have been handed the baton by my ancestors.
I have the support and protection of my community.
I am an asset to my community.
I understand that I have the responsibility to empower my community as I choose my path in life.
I am a law scholar, and I use literacy as a weapon to change the world.